Recording in progress. Yeah, you better not be bullshitting with the signal today.
Talking to me?
Yeah, I'm talking to you.
Why?
Last time, did you have bad signal last time? That was you. I know that was you.
In the group one?
Yeah, in the group one.
No, I was here at the gym.
Yeah, it was bad.
Okay, whatever.
You've been talking shit since last night.
That's all I do. Talk that shit!
Can you hear me okay? My earbuds are in the car and I don't feel like going to get them.
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Okay, cool. Tired.
Will you work today or just tired from the week?
No, I was at a meet all day yesterday. Handled 3 lifters.
Okay.
Multiply all of them. It was so much work. So much work. And then I trained this morning. I'm just dead. I'm just tired. Now I'm writing programming. It never ends.
How did they do?
Good. We had one guy's 55 years old, weighing at 144. He squatted 605.
Nice.
Bench 315. Pulled 535 for his third and passed out. Hit the ground. Woke him up. It felt like 5 minutes, but it was like 30 seconds. Woke him up and he looked up at me. He's like, "Did I get it?" And I was like, "No." And he was like, "Oh."
Did he get it to the top, but just didn't control it back down? Is that what happened?
To the top. It was like
I never understood that rule. Like, I don't know. At least for like special cases like that, like he passed out, he would have been a lower. You know, I don't know.
It was like an inch from lockout and he just fell backwards.
Oh, so he didn't lock it.
He didn't. Okay. No, he never stayed awake for that part.
Yo.
We're in the ladders. I love that.
Thank you. Let's see.
Where do you get that Chuck Vogel poster? Or did you just like get it printed at a FedEx or something?
Yeah, I just made it. It's what I use whenever we have to do screenings or something. Yeah. It says West Side versus the World down there and has the credits.
Yeah. I gotta get one of those.
Kinko's.
How much did it do that? Like $300, some crazy shit?
I think it was like 180, maybe.
It's not bad.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
It looks so nice too, so it's like whatever. What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
What did you hang it with though?
Oh, that's a stand.
So so like the
up and then it's got a little thing that comes up. Yeah, it's nice.
Oh, no games. How many people do we have in here right now?
It says we got 4, I think. 5.
Yes. There should be more. Well, we're still early. That's right. So, yeah, I don't know much about that rugby strength coach guy. I somehow just found him like 3 weeks ago, and then this shit started. So I was like, this shit is hilarious. Because I don't know if you saw him going at Joel Seatman. The reason why I even started learning more because I was like, wait, there's another interview because I only saw the one where he went versus that one PhD bodybuilder guy. So this guy, he's supposed to be like more about sports, and he was ripping his ass, and he was showing like how wrong he was with the warm-up sprint thing, and like going in depth. And I was like, dang, I wish I could like snapshot because there's people like we get kids because we're in Atlanta. We're only like an hour and a half away from wherever Joel Seatman's gym is. And you'll have people that come and be like, yeah, it's so good. Everything he be saying, they take it like it's God saying it. And I'm like, bro, I don't think this dude is that like even knowledgeable, even as a doctor, and he just says a lot of shit that I feel like he either says one thing that he claims that he came up with, or you froze. I saw. He like says shit that he like supposedly comes up with, or like, oh, this way is superior to training. My favorite, and like my girlfriend, because she's more into bodybuilding, we always laugh at that one lady he has that is like she does, I think IFBB or something like that. She's an older white lady, short hair, and he's like I get you could argue 90-degree for like squat depth, but when you're talking about like for optimal muscle growth, and you're talking about doing all your rows and your bicep curls and I'm like, bro, come. Now, come on. Now you know more than every bodybuilder, because I've never heard someone say, I never heard a bodybuilder like, yeah, we're doing half range of motion on everything. Like, that is crazy. Like, I don't know. That dude, yeah.
I saw him do the thing with Seidman, and I don't know that really like helped anybody, because Seidman blew up after it anyways.
Yes.
But it definitely like put Care or whatever on my radar. I was like, oh, okay, here's a guy who doesn't like bullshit. Awesome.
Right.
And I've seen other things, like I had seen him basically just be a dick to a number of people, but I didn't really think anything of it. And then I said, just get stronger, and he got pissed.
Does he follow you? Like, how does he even see it? He follows.
So the last couple of weeks on Twitter, I've had a couple things that have been like picked up traction.
Okay.
And he's retweeted me a couple times on some other stuff. Like, I put up a Buddy Morris clip talking about play multiple sports. I said, like, if conditioning made you tough, the last thing you'd want to see in a dark alley was a cross-country runner.
Okay. I saw that one. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and like, I caught a lot of flack for that as well, but I don't really give a shit. But, yeah, he took off and ran with, the notion of like, just get stronger. Like, that's the jump program, get stronger. And then that turned into, I don't care about jumps enough, clearly.
Right.
And I don't jump my kids enough. Which, if you know anything about me, every single time we step in the gym, we jump. Like, I guarantee you no one on here jumps more often than my kids. So felt like he was trying to like paint me into having made an argument that like wouldn't make any sense for me of all people to make.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then he demanded to see data. So I showed him my numbers. And then he was like, well, these have to be wrong because I've had 500 athletes at a D1 college, and I've only had 3 jump 40 inches. And I'm like, I don't know what to say to you, dude. Like,
yeah,
that's kind of the answer. Maybe it's because
but he focuses so much on that sprint technique stuff, like, and jumping a lot, but he doesn't squat, like, he doesn't push like actual weights, right? Like, so that's on him. I mean, what the fuck you want me to do?
Yeah. And he's like, well, that stuff he said, your stuff only works with like young athletes. And I was like, okay, well, I got a 32-year-old who's run 19.97, and we put 6 inches on his vertical in the last 2 months by squatting and by doing dumbbell jumps and by addressing the fact that while his technique is like literally flawless, his own words, it doesn't take me anywhere if I get weak.
Yeah.
If you got good technique, strength like only helps you more.
Yeah. And it's like when you talk about team sport kids too, it's so different because it's like they're combine, or if they're not doing combine, but 40 yards, like you see so many kids run with bad technique. Like the kids that run the fastest just typically to be the ones that are just stronger and more powerful. They're producing more force. So like if all you're focused on is the technique, well, how many kids are strong enough where they're going to benefit solely on you only spending that hour they got with you 3 days a week doing that? Like, and now I feel like that may try to justify the fact, like, it's the part where, I work at a college, so I can't do as much. Well, but don't get mad at everybody else that didn't choose to go that route. If that's what you're mad about, like.
Yeah, he seemed to imply, because I work with high school athletes and college and professional, but that I spend most of my time with the high schoolers. He seemed to imply that because of that, I don't know shit, which is funny because, again, he's like, he also doesn't know that, like, I'm the West Side versus the World guy.
Yeah.
Like, so he's, said, oh, how he likes that, and, tweets about Louis on his death, but then me, suddenly I'm just a random ass high school coach.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, all the technique stuff, if you don't have the strength to support the postures and the techniques, what's the fucking point? Like, people miss with sprinting and stuff all the time. Like, you can't, if you're not fast enough, you can't use the technique. If you're not strong enough, you can't use the technique. So you can teach a slow, weak kid technique and he can't use any of it. It's improper for him based on how fast he is. His legs aren't going to swing the same way if he doesn't have the stride frequency and he's not creating the force, and that's why
you'll get like sometimes like a few, like they may go from like a 1.87 to a 1.81 in their 10-yard, but then they'll plateau if you just say, we're going to do wickets and we're going to focus on running technique. I mean, like, bro, after a while, that skinny no-neck motherfucking kid got to get some muscle, got to get some strength, and got to get some power. And it's not going to get done by just running more, which he should. I know he knows the running more ain't the solution. But if the running more ain't the solution, then what are we talking about then? You know the other thing that you have to do. Like,
yeah, well,
it sounds like he's just hating. I don't know. That's just
he's ripping me about using box squats, which I never got an answer. Like, were you mad because I said get stronger?
Right.
Or were you mad because I said I use box squats as the primary means to get stronger?
Right.
Because he talks all the time about using pin squats. And I'm like, a pin squat and a box squat are the same damn thing, just set up with different equipment. Matter of fact, the hex bar deadlift and a box squat are the same thing. It's static overcome by dynamic. So
but he's got to know. He was ripping in his seat, and he sounds like too much of a knowledgeable guy. I don't know.
Yeah, well,
people that sound like that, it's weird.
He's young, number one.
Is he young? I thought he's like at least in his 30s, right? He's got to at least be in his 30s.
I don't know. I'm 35. If you're younger than me, you're young.
Right.
If you're, because I'm thinking okay, if you got your undergrad, all right, now you're 22, you get a master's, now you're 24, 25, and you've done fuck all out in the world. You haven't done shit yet. Yeah. So if you're 32 and you've been proclaiming yourself for at least a couple years as a real, authority on shit, then you had a window of 5-6 years to go get some actual working knowledge. And if all of that time was spent in the university system, then you had no time to go learn any actual application.
Yeah. A lot of people, they go right into that, so they're limited. But then they're getting mad at other people that chose not to go right into that.
Yeah. And then they do things quote studies of well, this study says you can only add this much muscle or add this much weight. And this study says you can only get this much stronger. And this study says, and it's that doesn't say that you can only do that thing. That only says the prevalence of where people existed. So you're studying people who trained in a certain way and got those results. That's really all you found.
And don't we talk about with the studies here, it's not like in super training and science and sports, it's not like it's as controlled with the amount of people, with the amount of time and all that. It could be 5 to 10 people to qualify, all done by dudes that you can obviously see have never lifted. And so it's a little just don't just go off studies, man.
Yeah. Well, he went off and ripping me. He, at one point, so he says he said something show me a 40 on a Vertec. So I had a kid who jumped 40.7 on a jump mat, and I've got a picture of him on a Vertec jumping a 43 because he has a visual cue. I mean, the kid's a 25.5 long jumper. He was the number one long jumper in the country in high school and set the all-time Florida State record. And now he's at Florida State on a full ride scholarship. But so I sent him, okay, well, here's a kid jumping even higher on a Vertec, but I don't test often enough to really give a shit about the Vertec. It takes way too much time to set up.
Plus, we have one. I tried it one day. I tried it one day. We said, man, fuck this shit. It took 40 minutes to get through like 4 kids. I said, I can't use this shit.
Yeah. And it's
I've seen stuff saying they're basically the same anyway.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And a Vertec is not any more accurate.
I think that if you watch some of the videos of people using the jump mat, though, some of them are absolutely atrocious. Where the
some people are letting their kids cheat. They are letting them kick the legs out or knee. So it gets a bad rap based on the of that population.
Yep.
And people use that as that.
Yeah. But when I sent him the same kid, and was like, hey, this kid, the jump mat says he jumps 40.7. Here's him jumping 43. And again, he's a kid who he's got verified track times. He's got distances. Like he jumps fucking 25 and a half feet in a long jump. It's not inconceivable that this kid can't jump.
Right.
But then so I show him the Vertec and I go, okay, you show me a Vertec, here's a Vertec. And then he comes back saying, well, Vertecs aren't accurate anyways. Like force plates.
What do you want? And you want to just be right? Like, fuck, damn.
Yeah. Well, then it's like, okay, you want to get into force plates? Because number one, I can talk to you about the engineering of jump mats like no one else. I've actually built a jump mat. I know how far off every jump mat is and why. I know the different pressure sensors, what kind of plate they use. I know all that, and how it it's going to display a different inaccuracy for me because I'm 275 pounds than it would for an athlete who's 150. But like it's going to be, varying degrees of accurate or precise, but it's going to be consistent per athlete. And that's the most important thing. So when I had a kid go up 13.8 inches on the jump mat, he went up 14 inches on the Vertec. So it doesn't matter. And he actually jumped again 1 inch higher on the Vertec. Because again, you give him a visual cue, he can go get that. He's got that added stimulation to go get it. But then you get into like force plates. Every different brand of force plate is going to give you a slightly different number based on how it's engineered. So then you can get into like high speed cameras. I've shot fucking verticals with a 960 frame per second camera. But then you have to get into, well, how do we measure it? Are we going to measure it by the height of the hip, the height of the hand, because the arm's going to extend? Or are we going to measure it by the height of the heel, like they do on a Vertec? I have a size 13 foot. If you have a size 10 foot, I'm already cheating you 3 inches. So like this idea of like absolute accuracy, it does not exist. Same thing. And I used to work for NFL Network, where my big yearly thing was the combine. There's a reason why like there's so much shit around like the 40-yard times and why they have to wait to give you the, quote unquote official time. It's because they have 8 different hand timers. And then the graphics are hooked into one person's. And those 8 different people, one of them's at 6 yards. I think another 2 are at 10 yards. Another 2 are at 20 yards. Another 2 are at 40 yards. And then they drop the outliers, because what if someone blinks when they're doing the hand timer? So then you get into, well, they also have an in-beam start that Zybex sets up, but you can cheat an in-beam start on your hand. So then you could use a pressure plate, but again, what's the engineering of the pressure plate? How many pounds of pressure does it need in order to set off? All of these things will give you differences of a few thousandths or a few hundredths of a second, or a variance as wide as, for the hand timers, 0.135 on average. So it's like, even that, you do video analysis of a 426, and on the video, it says it's a 438.
Yeah.
So my point is,
I always say they jump higher. That's it.
Not the accuracy of the testing, because the accuracy of the testing is going to be limited to whatever your resources are. And I work at a public high school where if we use jump mats, that's because I bought jump mats. So like, no, we don't have force plates. And if we did, they'd be broken because I go through a couple hundred kids a day, each doing like, 10 to 15 jumps.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's weird. Like when people talk about that, I'm like, bro, how can you not like, and even if the kid is cheating, if they jump higher, they're going to be jumping higher. It's just, did they progress? Because the progress shows that me squatting to a box versus your pinch squat, some reason my box squatting is working better. So, and then that's it. Like, because I know he's using a Vertec or a jump mat at his school. So we're using the same testers, but my kids are going up higher than yours. Well, then I'm doing something a little better, aren't I?
Yeah. And neither of us, not like, if you want to get into like the jumps, okay, then let's look at jumps and 40s. Let's look at jumps and flying 10s. Let's look at jumps, squats, flying 10s, medicine ball throws. Let's look at broad jumps. Let's look at everything. If everything keeps getting better, who cares if your jump mat score might not actually be, 100% precise? Because you know who also does not care if that jump mat score is imprecise? The coaches and the scouts recruiting. Because what are they using? They're not spending $250,000 on, oversized force plates. They're not bringing in a sports scientist to do their measurements. They're throwing down, when my kids go to UF for their mega camp, they throw down a just jump mat because they have data from Rivals and from from Rivals, ESPN Scout. Everyone uses the same mat. So when they compare your data, they don't actually care if that 40 is really a 38 or if it's really a 39 or a 37 or a 30. They don't care about any of that. They care about how does it compare to the other kids that we have.
Yeah, that dude, he seems like he's extremely opinionated, but it's another example of another person where I don't see starting verticals at the beginning of seasons, measured throughout, measured at the end. I don't see none of that. And when people have crazy opinions but not showing the progress of their athletes, it's easy for me to be like, you're kind of a bullshit artist, aren't you? But everybody else will believe into the hype of your videos or your retweets and all that, because they're not smart enough to know that just because an exercise looks cool and your kids are screaming and you got a lot of reposts that, wait, well, what about your verticals and your squats and your bench press? Are those improving while you're making all those cool videos? Oh, we don't have access to that. Oh, we don't test them because that's not necessary. That would waste. My favorite is it would waste a training session. I'm like, your training sessions aren't that hard. It's okay to test once every other, like even once a month. I mean, damn. Like, and they're always about not getting the athletes hurt. Testing days are like the easiest days for an athlete. Oh, I do 3 or 4 jumps and then maybe I squat, maybe I bench. Oh, I'm done now. Wow, that was really taxing.
Yeah, well, that gets into too, like how I use the mats. The mats are part of the training. Half of our jumps are dumbbell jumps. So the jump, the number that comes out the other side, I don't even care how high they go. I care, are they using the feedback of the mat to strive to go higher? Because it just reinforces intent. So I'm using it as a tool for rate of force development. The accuracy of it, I don't care about at all. It's the precision of it, the consistency of it. Because if we do Vertex, if a kid can get hot. Also, Vertex is a lot more skill because you have to time when you're going to hit it and all that. But if you don't improve by it, I have cheap Vertex. I have the knockoff, the Chinese version. So you have to improve by a full inch in order to up your score. So, what an aggressive rate is considered 1 inch a month. So I've got a kid just whiffing on air for a month, and that's if he's improving at an aggressive rate.
Yeah.
That's not giving him a lot of feedback to improve. That's why I got a lot of kids who improve by, more than 1 inch a month. It's partly because they can make an improvement of 0.1.
Yeah.
And,
I have that same Vertec, and before we had a jump mat, I could not get my kids to understand, like, to jump with intent with the dumbbell. Like they would barely jump with the dumbbell, and then they would jump hard at the vertex. And then when I got the jump mat, the instant that they could see the number with the dumbbell, they all went up with like 2 inches in a month.
Yeah.
Because they started jumping hard with the dumbbell.
Exactly. Like they're not even listening to me. You know, I'm trying to tell them, like, you know, what they need to do. They're not listening to me. They're listening to the number coming back at them. Like it's gamifying the training. It's the same as like throwing a tendo on a squat or throwing timers on sprints. You know, like the important thing is that metric consistent? Yeah.
So now that we ripped on his ass, let's open it up to the topic we were talking about. Brief maximal tension squats versus doing speed squats. Not even just speed squats, I guess you could say speed squats and speed deadlifts. And it's not just about with sport athletes, but maybe raw powerlifters versus gear powerlifters, because there's a lot of, I found, and even just with myself, I think a lot of raw squatters that do conjugate won't do as much speed squatting as they would do a version of brief maximal tension. Same thing with a lot of athletes benefit more from the heavy straining sets once or even twice a week versus getting as much benefit from speed squats and speed dead. So, you know, whoever wants to talk about their findings or what they've seen, or, you know, which one they like to use, you know, can go ahead.
I've powerlifted and trained powerlifters for years, and both my raw and equipped people use speed squat. For the raw people, I have found that typically I have to kind of lower the percentage, like 40 to 50%, so that they can not only move it like fast like they should, but recover.
Right.
And with the equipment, you can kind of do that and keep it at a higher percentage and recover. And then I tried the brief maximal tension for a while with some of my more advanced athletes, and I like that are, you know, just playing sports. And for about the first month, it seemed like it really helped, and then it seemed like it kind of got going the other way, kind of taxed them a little bit too much.
Right.
So I still don't have. I ordered a rep 1 so I can start monitoring bar speed. So I don't know if they kind of just got a little bit too heavy. But I went back. I talked to some athletes in the past. They all said that they felt like the speed squat and me telling them to try to move it like it's a max weight was very beneficial to them. But I still, like my intermediate people, you know, I'm still kind of using that, even though I can't measure the bar speed for those athletes, and they're being very successful with the kids who are still kind of newer and gaining strength quick. And from like the old stuff from West Side before Bands and Chains, like a lot of times I would see them recommend like 75, 80% on like straight weight stuff for speed work anyways. And so it seems like that's kind of working. I'm interested to see once I can actually measure bar speed for both groups, what will happen.
What's the sets and reps that you did for the brief maximal tension, and what do you tend to do for speed squats? Like, what are the sets of reps, and then like what are the percentages that you're using when you've done brief maximal tension?
With the intermediate type kids, like where they're still so new, I don't necessarily use a percentage. I kind of look at what they've been able to squat for like 3 to 5 rep maxes, and I kind of base a judgment of weight off of that, and then I watch how fast they're moving it, and then I'll either leave it there or move it up the next week, or if it doesn't look like they're moving it well enough, I'll move it down.
Okay. For
my more experienced kids, like I said, like the athletes, it might be between like 30 to 45%. Power lifters, if they're raw, like 40 to 50%, and then for like myself and the other guys who are equipped, it might be like, you know, 50 to 60%, somewhere through there. If we're doing like sets of 2, like the athletes will do like 6 to 8 sets of 2 to 3 reps, and then the lifters, it'll be between like 8 to 12 sets of 2, unless we're getting like at the start of a meet, we'll do the 5 sets of 5 for like a 3-week wave, because I feel like that builds everyone's conditioning up after you do that. Like, I feel like I can do like my first 6 or 7 sets of 2 on speed day with like almost no rest at all after going through that weight of the 5s.
Next.
Wow. Finally.
There you are.
I was waiting outside and I couldn't find out when to start the video. So listen, when I heard you guys talking, I hope, man, I'm so happy I got on. So I'm sitting enjoying talking with you guys, especially when you talk about anything about the speed, because I worked with Westside for so many different years and saw all the different changes as far as with speed and everything else. And I've seen the change, especially like in the bench press, if you ever consider stuff like that. At the end, one of the last times I was working with Louis, if we ever did anything with, as far as speed, like with the bench press, he brought it all the way down to 40%. The whole thing, his key was really working on speed as far as whenever we talked and when we worked together, as far as some of the different exercises. I mean, really, not, how can I put it, like making sure that we weren't just kidding ourselves as far as like moving away to a certain speed. Because what he talked about, 9 meters per second is what he recommended. You guys ever talk to him about that or anything like that?
I know the squats, I thought they were like 0.6 to 0.7. I always forget the bench speed though, because the bench is usually going to be a little faster, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, traditionally he used to go 0.7 to 0.9 was kind of the sweet spot that he wrote about.
Right.
For bench.
Well, for both.
Oh, for both. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But the 0.6 something was like the minimum you had to hit, or you had to lower it. But you wanted to be getting all your sets between 0.7 to 0.9. Is that correct?
Well, that's
yeah,
what
that
that's
was
yeah. Go ahead, my friend.
Yeah. I've heard Bird talk about before, and I've heard Louis when I was interviewing him said something like to this point, but I think it was more complete when he talked to Bird. That you have to, an elite squatter has to jump or has to squat at about a third of the speed of an elite jumper. And I've heard Louis say before, an elite jumper is 42 inches or above. Well, 42 inches, you would be leaving the ground at about 2.1 meters per second. Mm-hmm. So cut that in third and you're boom in the 0.7s.
Right.
But this is always my point when people talk about speed squats versus brief maximal tension, because I think in this group, most of the brief maximal tension stuff goes back to Jared. Well, Jared's typically, working with less experienced athletes who, they become elite jumpers, but they're not elite jumpers when they start. A 30-inch jump, which would be that sort of lower end, that's going to be like 1.8 meters per second. So divide that by 3 and you get 0.6s. So the idea being, and say like whether squat or bench, say like, from being around like Hoff, I know that he uses lower percentages than pretty much everyone else in the gym. Well, you think about it, his outputs are higher than everyone else in the gym. So he, when everyone else, Matt Winning would say like, oh, well, I switched my speed bench to 40% plus 25 in accommodating resistance. Well, Hoff would say, well, I switched mine down to 35.
Interesting.
So he can grind through weights because of his max effort day. And then you have to remember like the whole purpose of the speed day was as a complement to the max effort day and to offset that adaptation of making you too slow. Because in the late 70s, Louis was already experimenting with basically like a Bulgarian type system where he was going super heavy and, near maximal every time in rotating exercises. And that's what eventually in the early 80s leads to, the second back break. And then that's what leads him into reading more about Soviet training to find that offset, which eventually becomes his, 3-week dynamic pendulum wave. So there's a story to how, there's a story to how he put it together that answers a whole lot of questions. And a big thing I find with people is that they want to apply like where everyone eventually got to, to where they are, which if, might be a drastically different place. If you're a 14-year-old kid just starting out, you don't know how to grind, you don't know how to push, you need to go heavier because your outputs are so low, they don't elicit the same response. But then as you get stronger and as you mature, well, now your outputs are so heavy that they'll fatigue you unless you back off.
Yeah, I find that in my
You
own
become
bench.
like Coker and become super slow and get banged up all the time.
I find that with like my kids, like when they use their same percentage in the bench or the squat and I use mine, it's like mine's a 0.6, they're a 0.8, 0.9. It's just like, because they can't, well, I always tell people what the kid's max really is could be 30, 40 pounds, 50 pounds away, depending on the lift. So when we use that percentage, we can sometimes go higher because their 1 RM isn't really what their 1 RM is. But
Right.
when we do a 1 RM, it really is. So when we do a certain percentage, sometimes we have to go back down, whereas they got to go up,
You
You
learn
guys
how
ever-
to grind, they haven't.
You guys ever use the plyo swing in as far as like explosive training with? I sat down with Louis last time, exactly talking to him about how he used the plyo swing also figure out explosion and everything else. Are you guys big into plyo swing or anything like that?
I don't know about everybody else. I have one. Who's talking? Somebody's
that was me. I was going to say, who was it out in California that put the plyo swing, the jump mat on the plyo swing?
Oh, that's Recalibrated Performance. What's his damn name? The Asian guy.
Yeah.
Oh, he told me about it. I just thought of it the other day because I was like, oh, I want another variation, but we only have one clamp because you need 2 clamps to put the jump mat on the plyo swing. We only have freaking one. But he talked about it. I was like, man, that adds like 50 different different records because you could do all the combination of bands, all the combination of weight, single leg, both leg, and then like a combination of both. So I use it usually once to twice a week, more often than not, like on upper body day, if we still jump on that day, I use it more of as like a warm up so they're not going cold. Or
Right.
I use it on a day to replace bounding jumps, just if they've done like a bunch of stuff on the move, and then I'll switch to plyo swing. When I can get the vert mat though on it, I'll probably add that as a new max effort variation because that's going to be pretty freaking cool.
I had to specifically, nail him down, trying to explain it in a grassroots kind of explanation. And what he explained to me was that even how far do we use it to a point of diminishing return? He said that one of the things you do with the plyo swing was basically, he said if say your first explosion was like 18 inches off the plyo swing, right? And you did several jumps, and you're going like all of a sudden, from 18 inches to 16 to 12, and once you hit something like 10, you cut it, and that's the end of it because you use it to the point of where it's still effective, and you cut it when it stops being effective. And that's how he explained it the simplest to me using a plyo swing. Any comment on that?
Yeah, that sounds about right. Especially like because I've heard him say the same thing about box jumps when they're doing like sets of box jumps, like sets of 5 or whatever. Like once it's a height where it looks like a max effort attempt or the kid has to take a break, then you need to lower the height or just be done for the day with those jumps. So that kind of makes sense. And that's where like I have different bands based on how high I know a kid can jump on the jump mat. I have a certain amount of band that I have a certain each kid use. So I know when I watch them jump, they're actually getting good distance off that platform, but not too crazy at the same point because it's so easy.
So if anybody really wants to learn as far as box jumping and stuff like that, Phil Harrington, are you guys familiar with him?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, Phil was my boy. I see you smile. Phil. One crazy ass dude, man. He
Why is he so crazy? People keep saying this, and I've only seen him in the DVD, so I don't know. But like, is he really that crazy?
Yeah, he is. Well, he's.
Oh.
I mean, first of all, he's like an ultimate MMA wrestler, right? I mean, You're playing with a loaded gun. You're playing with him. He's a good friend. Him and I helped him start his first business was with Next Level Training. But what happened with him, we did, if you ever notice, a lot of the West Side videos with jumping has to do with him because he spent the most time experimenting with it. And he developed a whole bunch of different jumping rituals that really added a lot to people. Following his protocol, we had one of my kids, which is an older guy who was a policeman. And at 230 pounds, he jumped to a 60-inch box, which is for a guy as a policeman, 30 years old. That was an awesome jump. Okay.
Right.
And he did all the stuff that he did. And it really, he knew it inside out. And him, as far as whenever we did anything that he actually did, really added to the overall max of our squatting. I mean, I went up 40 pounds doing some of the stuff that he did, which I think is a lot for an athlete to jump up with, as far as like with in a squat and so forth.
Yeah. Yeah. What are some of the stories of this dude? Because I always he'd be hearing people say like, "Oh yeah, this motherfucker is crazy." Like, well,
he was just fearless. He at my gym. I seen him when he came out one time. We had a squat contest where we had a bunch of high-level squatters. Pat Susko, who did 920 back in, I think, 1990 something, and Phil Harrington, which I don't know if Phil ever got a grand, but he was up there somewhere. And he was just fearless under the bar, and he would just do whatever it took in any situation. And he would I'll tell you, he would do it whatever it took to get a weight. He was a tough man, and he trained his ass off. He was small and he was powerful, explosive in every sense of the word.
Yeah, he
was. What did he weigh? Was he like 198?
181.
Yeah.
191.
181.
Yeah.
What the hell do you know that number off your head?
Tall.
How do you know that 191 exactly?
He squatted over 900 at 181. I remember watching him. You know, I've been powerlifting for like 20 years, so I remember when Phil was like still holding the world record.
Oh, you said 181.
Yeah, 181.
Oh, because I was about to say, why did you know he weighed exactly 191? I'm like, that ain't no weight class. What the fuck? Damn, 181. Shit, yeah, that's
how much did you squat at 181?
It was 900 or a little more.
Yeah,
damn.
Yeah.
He tried to do.
I feel like Fahey's got a good story though.
What you say?
I said I feel like Fahey's got a good Phil story he's about to tell us.
Yeah, come on now, break it.
No, I've got some Phil stories. I didn't spend a lot of time around Phil. I just heard a lot of Phil stories, and then Phil got my phone number at some point, and yeah, the Phil stories I have are mostly ones that I'm not going to say on recorded format.
Damn.
Yeah, but he was. I have like a bunch of old footage of him from before he was at West Side. What was he? He was in Georgia, right? He come out like
I remember he's been in North Carolina. His mom, I think, is somebody down there. He's from down south.
Yeah,
down south. He might be Georgia, you say, but I thought it was North Carolina. But that's just one.
I think after West Side, he was in North Carolina.
Yeah, I think you're right. Okay.
Yeah, but I think originally, I can't remember the name of the gym that he was at, but back when he was like competing in the WPO before he came up to West Side, right. I'm pretty sure it was a gym down in Georgia. And he came up with he either came up with or he was the way that like the chain squats got introduced to West Side.
Oh yeah,
that's exactly right. Him and Dave Hoff. He was involved. Actually, there's a video of the five of us working together with the chains, and they all put that concept together. And I still use the chain squat. I think it's a fantastic routine.
Mm-hmm.
It took my squat from 750 to 815 in like 3 months for me, which I mean is really a big deal.
Yeah.
I'm an older lifter.
Yeah, but Phil, I mean, like if you ever talk to Phil, you can get a sense real quick of why people talk about Phil the way that they do.
Yeah.
But he wasn't. If you've ever seen like Kovac, Alex Kovac, in the Night Crew, he's got a build that's like similar to Phil in terms of like Phil was he wasn't like a lot of the guys who were in the lighter weight classes because they were super short. Like Phil looked like a guy who should have been like a 242 by conventional like proportions. He just like Phil just like stayed an athlete and was doing these monster weights back when no one was approaching 1,000 at 181. Right. And Phil box squatted and jumped high as hell. So
he was crazy. He could teach anybody how to do it too.
Mm-hmm.
How many days a week would he jump? Would he still do like the typical 40 jumps twice a week, or was he doing his own thing?
I don't know specifically. I just know that when Louis needed to demonstrate a jump, Phil was the guy he went to.
Yeah. Because he could do it from any position. He was big into he actually took, I don't know if you guys have ever seen it. We all know what the original West Side squat looked like, or box squat, when you used to pick your feet up in the air and then jam them down and jump up, right? He would do a lot of that stuff from a box and then go up to like a 4-foot kind of crate or something like that. It was crazy. He just sat down, stamped his feet, and jumped up to the box totally still.
On the hard box too.
Yeah. You know? No, I'll tell you, powerlifter is so full of guys like that they're exceptional. You got to be like Louis always said. I mean, he wanted some of the crazy ones. You don't want normal people. You want to have normal people that you throw them in there and they go in there and do what it takes to get this stuff done. They step under any weight there is and they don't care. These other people from the outside have no idea how it is like stepping into like a garage full of pit bulls. I'm telling you something, man. It really is. You're challenged every moment you're in there. I remember one time I went in there, and I was one of the first times I went to Westside, and they were teaching me how to box squat. And I don't know if I mentioned the story before, but here's the truth. I went in there, and Louis seen me box squat and says, Henri, I make movies of training. And I said, Louis, yeah, I knew. And as a matter of fact, I bought some. He said, you bought them. Why don't you try watching the damn things? He would put you on a spot. I felt like, I was a good squatter, 800-pound squatter. I felt like I was squatting 135. And he'd play games with you all the time when you're in there doing different things. Like, as far as, I know you guys like to talk a little bit about Westside, but I remember going there several times when all those guys were squatting to a 14-inch box. And I was the same height as them. They put me at 13 just to fuck with me, right? And and so they did that, and I got stuck at the bottom. It was only like 405, and I got stuck at the bottom. I said, "Lou, I'm stuck." He says, well, "Find your way up." And sure enough,
what the fuck?
Sure enough, I found my way up. I'm telling you, you're going into fire. It was just like every single time.
How much weight did you have on your back?
Just mess with you, huh?
How much weight did you have on your back when he told you that?
Well, it was only 405 with a light suit on, but the whole idea, if you're used to squatting to 14 or I'm not exactly, it was right at parallel, maybe a little below parallel. Then it was 2 inches below parallel. I couldn't come up with it, but I found a way.
I've heard people ask like, how did Louis break his back? Like squatting,
right?
And like getting stuck on a box.
Mm-hmm.
And like people don't understand that idea and that approach. Like he would routinely leave people stuck on the box.
Oh yeah.
And say, "What's up?" And he'd do it to himself. Like that wasn't the only time he got stuck on a box. That was just the time where it bit him in the ass.
There. Yeah. Or the whole thing is when he set you up, you come into the West Side. He says, we're going to go train at 7 o'clock, right? So we got in there 4:45. He says, we're going to go in the gym. I see a couple guys. We're going to have breakfast. And then we'll go train 7 o'clock. So I get in there 4:45, come in, walk inside the gym. He says, change my mind. Let's squat now. Just to keep you off balance all the time. He would keep you off balance so that you never had a chance to like get one up on him. Or God forbid you try to race, you try to walk with him doing sled drag. The guy would put you in the ground. He would just purposely see him pick up speed and pace all the time. It was a constant challenge. They got the best out of you every single time you were there.
Yeah, I went when he was, I think, too old to be pushing us because, I always heard the stories like you had to work out. Like when we went last August, and I trained, and then I think all the coaches trained, but like my boss, who doesn't powerlift or anything, he did upper body on Saturday, but on Friday he just worked the monolift and helped us out. I'm like, yeah, this definitely not how it was. I know he would have made his lift, and some of the other guys that I've seen, where I'm like, they would not have been an option.
Do you realize I was there a couple of times when the elite Ohio State and Iowa their wrestlers were there, right? He put them on an ATP box, that ATP apparatus.
Yeah.
And none of them were standing at the end of it. They were on the ground just without air. Because it was just, that's why I just wish people could have seen it, the real West Side. It was just incredible. Incredible. And all guys here, anybody's been there, they know.
Yeah, Rachel, how was your time there?
It was terrifying.
Terrifying.
Did he say anything funny to you?
Well, we got there at like 4:45 in the morning,
Great.
just to be there early. I think it was 4:45. I was early.
Yeah, and you're still late.
Yeah,
Right?
well, he was outside. He was outside, and my training partner and I went together. And my training partner went out to go meet him and say hi to him. And he looked at him and goes, "Got a girl with you?" He was like, "How much do you squat?" And my training partner Mike goes, 300. He was like, "Oh, okay." So then Louis holds the door open for me. And I walked by and I was like, "Hi." I was terrified of him. But then we got inside and, you start lifting or you forget about all the fear. And you start you just forget. Then you start squatting or whatever. And, he's with the regular crew and he's kind of watching and watching and watching. And then he'll work his way over and he'll make you do a bazillion sets till you're dead. But then he'll grab you and tell you what you're doing wrong and want to fix it.
Yeah.
And that was the coolest thing. Right. He was like holding on. He at one point, I have it on my Instagram. He grabbed the back of my neck. He was trying to get me to arch more into the squat. And when he grabbed the back of my neck, I started laughing and he was pulling me forward. He's like, "Don't let me pull you forward, girl." And then I start laughing because then he starts laughing and I'm like, "Oh my God, Luis is holding on to the back of my neck. Keep it together."
You know what he was like? He was the maestro. He'd be working with you and he still sees somebody else in the corner doing something else.
Yeah.
He ran that place. He knew everything was going on.
You didn't miss anything.
He didn't miss a thing.
Mentally
he was
sharp.
The ultimate teacher. And he was just an ultimate individual.
He told me I had a big pull for a bigger person. And he goes, "But don't be insulted." I was like, "No, you're good." You're good. I'm a 400-pound puller. I'm not insulted. It's a big pull. It was really cool. He was watching us pull after that, and I have the whole thing on video. I just happened to grab it. He goes, "We're done. We're done here. We'll go out to breakfast and we'll talk." And I was like, "You're inviting me out to eat with you? Like, what is going on right now?" We went back the next day to do bench, and I was dead. I was just dead tired. Everything hurt. My whole body hurt. I think I did 50 reps on bench, like 3 reps with insane band tension, and Lou came over and was like, "Here's what you're doing wrong." And he touched my stomach and he was trying to get me to like flex, but I didn't have like that body shock that he called it. So it was all, he's like, here on your stomach, you gotta, like you do a deadlift, like flex. And I was like, I don't know what the fuck you're telling me to do. But I spent the last year working on it and now I can do it. And thanks to him, I hit a 180 bench in my feet last month. Like that.
Good for you, man.
It was really cool. But it was, I wanted to go back. There's, life is, adulthood is hard and life is busy, but we made it. We made it out there, and it was the coolest experience ever. I never thought I would be there.
I don't know about
he wasn't
you guys,
scary. I was scared.
But when I went, when I was like, you're on like such a high, because we basically just went Friday through Sunday and we came back Sunday, but like you don't drink enough water.
No,
you're holding in shit and piss probably for like 4 hours because you're in the gym. First, he's going to talk to you. Then you lift. You do more than you're supposed to. Then because there were so many people there, we're talking to everybody. Then after you talk, and you're like, bro, I've had one bottle of water. It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I am dying right now.
I was scared to eat breakfast because I didn't know what he was going to do to us when we went back to the gym. And I was like, I don't want to eat in front of him. Like, I don't want to eat breakfast. So I was like, I eat well too, but I was like eating toast and like bacon. I was like being really, really cautious. I was so scared. And then we were dying. And after the last
battling, should I eat fuel or should I risk having to go to the bathroom?
Exactly. And I was like, are the bathrooms even clean? I don't know if they ever clean these bathrooms.
No.
There wasn't
even soap. There was no soap when we went. There was paper towels, no soap.
They clean them, but they clean them once a week. And the problem is
there's a lot of
what's in there for the 6 days in between.
And what day of the week are they doing it? Wednesdays or Fridays or Sundays?
Well, you know, I like all these people.
Friday.
Probably like Thursday, I think.
Yeah. So by Friday, Saturday, they're disgusting again. Ugh.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have the same feeling that I do, but a lot of these new lifters are out here telling me they need calibrated plates, they need everything put back.
I don't understand
You go to
that shit.
Westside, man. You go to Westside, and the dumbbells are all over the place. Why? People use them.
Yeah.
Everything's getting used there. These people got such a wrong attitude about getting strong.
My last meet,
you got to use the calibrated plates. I don't never understood. I'm like, what's the big deal?
They tell me they need to know how much weight's on a bar.
They think it's different. They think it feels different because it's more compressed. Some bullshit like that. My last meet, I warmed up with regular plates and then went and did kilos on the platform. I didn't fucking feel a thing. There's too much anxiety and too much.
Right.
So much adrenaline. I'm not thinking about how the plates fucking feel. Just do it.
He says, get stronger, right? Get stronger. The weights get stronger.
There's a local lifter in Massachusetts that asked the meet director who had just started to do APF meets in Mass, asked him, hey, I need to know if you're going to have calibrated plates, kilo plates for the platform, because, you know, that's the only thing I'll use on a competition.
Oh, my God.
Why are you a powerlifter then? Like, what is the fuck? You're missing the point of powerlifting.
You're missing the point.
We had a guy at our gym that used to bring in a piece of carpet to deadlift on and bench on and squat on because there was carpet on the platform of all the meets. And he said that he could tell the difference between the carpet that he uses and the different carpet of like the USAPL meets and shit like that. It was absolutely fucking ridiculous. And then I'll go back to, Louis thing with saying just get stronger. His whole thing was you should be a master technician. And his whole thing was I'm a master technician. And, if things aren't just right, it can really affect my lift by 50 or 60 pounds each. And it's just like, he's telling all these new lifters that you would bring into the gym to try and coach about this kind of shit. I wanted to just fucking go smack him and be like, dude, it fucking just get stronger.
He's a bitch.
Right.
He's just a little bitch. He's got no grit. Like, what the hell?
You guys come to my gym anytime, man. That's what I want is people like that, not people that have to check calibrated plates or how thick the bar.
Who cares? Just lift.
Carpet.
Or listen, do you have brand new bands? I only can calculate if the bands are brand new.
No, those people probably want worn out bands because it'll be easier. They don't want new bands. They're too hard. They don't want to work hard. I cannot stand that. They want the easy shit.
Well, how can you do that? And then you go to a strongman meet, like at a strongman competition. It's like, oh, well, these tires are 300 pounds, and I don't feel like taking them off. So just start at 300. It's fine.
They have the right attitude. A lot of people talk about that.
Strongman, it changes every event too.
Yep.
I'll give you
every
an
strongman event. Every strongman meet, including the Arnold's this year, there's a misloaded event every single time. They misload fucking everything. And they misloaded the axle clean and press here by 20 pounds for the amateurs. They were all cleaning and pressing an extra 20 pounds.
Yeah, those guys
feels a little off.
To give you a quick example how that and I don't want to say what organization it was. One of my lifters, we went to a USPAL meet, right? And he was like it's a very shy guy, but he's a monster, right? We go into, they're doing a platform, they're doing a uniform check or equipment check. and I go to him, we need to know what kind of underwear you got on. He said, underwear, what do you care what kind of underwear I got? He said, well, you can't wear tighty whities, or you can only wear boxers or something like that. The guy walked out of the meet because he was like out of his mind because these guys care what kind of underwear. What does it have to do with your lifts?
Nothing.
Yeah, they were. When I did my USPA meet, they were like, you had to wear, like, it didn't have to be white, but you had to wear that style. I guess because they didn't want to see in your singlet a longer brief, because they were like, maybe you'd be wearing briefs. So I guess they didn't want to mix that up. But I'm like, is really somebody going to use the little groove briefs and get 5 pounds more out of their squat? I have the groove briefs. They don't do shit. I don't get.
Oh yeah.
They don't let. There's a federation that doesn't let girls use underwire bras either. I don't know which federation.
Wear what?
Underwire in their bras. It might
what
be
is
USAPL.
it supposed to do?
What
does that do?
Nothing. It just supports your boobies.
What the fuck? Yeah, what would they saying it's like a bed shirt? Like,
I have no idea. Trust me, it offers nothing.
It's not like it's hard
I got my wire
put a
bra
hand under the
and I got my
singlet to
regular
check.
bra, bro. You said what?
So it's not like it's hard to slip your hand under someone's singlet leg and make sure they're wearing, not briefs and
right
to the boxer briefs.
Let's get back to lifting weights. There's people that don't know what's going on.
My favorite is the USPA, the one with the L in the shit. You're talking about how they don't use deadlift bars. We have people in our gym that do that federation, and they'll tell me, like, why don't you just switch over to this one? I'm like, don't y'all not use deadlift bars and have skinny little benches and shit? They're like, you don't need that. I'm like, bro, we all know a deadlift bar is going to add a bunch to your total. Why are y'all still living in the 70s? Like, there used to not be belts. Now we fucking use them. I don't know.
You
can't use monoliths. You got to walk that shit out.
Okay. Monoliths. Go ahead. Somebody's going to talk about the monoliths. Go ahead.
That's like Blaine breaking his back here.
Abolish the USAPL.
If Brandon Lilly would have been using a monolith instead of those stupid ER racks, he would have blew both his knees out.
True.
Yeah, very true.
You got Blaine squatting 1100 on a tiny little power bar that's shaking like crazy, and then they're making him go 4 inches below the depth he needs to, and he breaks his back, possibly takes one of the best single pile lifters in history ever, maybe ruins the rest of his career because they can't use a squat bar and be consistent on what depth is.
You're right.
This is why powerlifting probably doesn't progress the same as bodybuilding, because there's so much ego. The federations are so totally different. Like, why is not everybody using a Thompson fat pad? I don't get it. Why would we want more, torn labrums and shit, and fucked up shoulders and torn pecs? Like, we can't use a squat bar. We can't use a deadlift bar.
I'm curious the history of the bench width. Like, what's the history of the bench width? Where'd that come from? Aside from that was all that was available back then.
That's where
that was all that's available. And then they were like, "You're not tough."
That's it.
You don't.
But like nobody's progressed with what's available now, right? I don't know. It's just old fashioned.
Well, I'll tell you, one time I actually tried to run a meet because I've always liked monolith stuff. And one time when they first came out with the monolith bench press, my rationale behind actually trying to use it was when you got guys going after 1,000, 1,100 pounds in a bench press, and you need usually 3-4 man handoffs with that much. What happens is they're uneven, and that weight goes, it's going because they never it goes that fast. So I was hoping at one time that we were going to have some monolith bench presses in the contest, but it's never taken off.
When you do the monolith for the squat in contest, I haven't been to a meet that had one. You also get the safety straps when you use a monolith too in competition, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So now you have people not using feet and hands also because you're using a monolith.
Yeah.
Correct.
Nope. Still got to use the standing, shaky, fucking swinging rack.
Well, it saves you from breaking your back. You set it the right height. You know what I mean? Like I have one real good lifter that Chris Delafab is from our area, and I trained him early in his career, and he used to routinely go over 1,000 pounds of just me and him together in the gym. Mm-hmm. And if it wasn't for those safety squat racks, he would have, first of all, probably went through the floor of my gym. But second of all, saved his ass numerous times.
Right. It's just from a safety perspective. It's like, why are we letting you're not tough if you don't do this come into play? Dudes that are benching 700, 800, 900, they're tough enough. Okay, can we save their life here? What?
It's also that those feds can host the most meets and have the most lifters, because if you allow monoliths, now you need places that have monoliths.
Right.
That's again with the big wave of minimalism within raw powerlifting, and even within CrossFit, which is really fucking weird that they would be into minimalism. But that's all based around the business model.
I think you're right.
Can we save some money on some bars? Can we save some money on facilities? Can we sell to these young people? Can we sell to guys like Blaine the dream of being in the Olympics, which spoiler, it's a 12-year, or it's not even, but the events have already been picked 12 years out. And
really?
It only takes 18 months to get added. So USAPL, IPF, all this, they've only tried to be added, I believe, one time. And that one time they were told, and this is the problem with every sport, the Olympics is not going to take sports that are, tainted by drugs. Personally, I wish every, elite athlete that was trying to redefine human performance was on stuff, because I want to see how fast can it go? How, how much weight can it lift? But if, track and field, for example, if Usain Bolt wasn't at his peak, if he was not in your track federation, they're not televising the 100. They're not keeping the strongest people out and then trying to say, hey, look at this product, because it's not a compelling product. Again, that's why
wow,
it was on ESPN. They're going to go where the best people are. So if you say, well, these people are drug free, they conform to, the ideals of Olympic amateurism, where we don't pay them and we keep all the money. If they conform to those ideals, but they're also all outside of the top 50, they don't want that. That's not a good show. That adds no value to the Olympics. The IOC can't, bend anyone over and rape their pockets for that. They want the best. Oh, the best are clearly, in this sport have taken substances. Okay, then we just don't care about that sport. That's fine. We'll do weightlifting. And even though no one cares about weightlifting,
aren't they about to get the boot out of the Olympics though?
Yeah, they took it out now.
Weightlifting getting on the outs though.
It's out. It's done.
Well, again,
I think you're right.
What happens when it's known that the best are probably on drugs across the sport? If you're going to kick out, if you're kicking out Russia and,
Asia,
all these
Asia.
countries, all these, they're not going to keep, they're not going to keep Olympic weightlifting in the Olympics just for a bunch of clean lifters in the US. Because again, if you're not top 50, they don't want you. Right. So yeah, they'll drop it, and cornhole will get picked up.
Bowling.
Yeah, bowling. They don't give a shit. It's a money grab. All they care about is, does your federation have the best? Because they can sell the best. That's their entire thing. So, IPF, USAPL, they keep lifters like, Blaine and Ray, because of the hope of, well, in 2036 or 2040, we're going to be in the Olympics. Yeah, and you're going to be 50 years old and broken. Who cares?
Unless
you're not going to
David
make it
Ricks.
to that day.
Well,
what did you say? Somebody said something.
Oh, I had said unless you're David Ricks and you're squatting 705 for 4 at 62.
Yeah, that dude's ageless.
He's nuts.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, some of the lighter lifters don't get the respect that they should because they're phenomenal lifters, pound for pound, like a lot of the women. You take a look at that, and we always like to see the dinosaurs. The bigger guys squatting like super heavy weights, but hopefully everybody gets their same respect. But it's not the same. But
that's like boxing, though. It's like the same thing. Like why MMA has become so popular because even though a lot of the best guys are in the lighter weight classes, it's still going to be entertaining because at any time anybody can lose. But the heavyweights have gone kind of shitty. And what is boxing most known for? Knockouts. So it's like the same with powerlifting. You think of, well, what's the biggest weights? The biggest guys. People don't know what pound for pound and relative strength is, so they don't know when a 148 guy. I remember this black guy a few years ago. He did like a 6-something sumo deadlift, and he was like 148. And people don't know how fucking crazy that is. Like, because a lot of people that are regular people can deadlift like 4. So that's only 200 pounds more. But it's like, no, but this dude is half your weight. That's why it's so fucking
gentleman from down in Georgia.
Was it Hawthorne? They call him
Nate.
Yeah.
Is that
I can't remember. I just remember seeing it.
Hawthorne
I can't remember his name though.
He's
Little
always,
guy.
He was in an animal cage. If that's the one you're talking about, he's an incredible young man. He was a really good lifter. Like he did 600 for 6 or 8 reps in the cage. It's there. So insane. He played starting linebacker for his high school team, like 130 pounds.
Jesus Christ, that strong?
He's from Georgia. He's a hell of a young man that really is a great ambassador from our sport.
Yeah. What do you guys think of all the lifters now, the big linear guys that kind of do a little bit of conjugate, but they don't admit it, like the Jamal Browners and the white guy with the glasses, Griggs or Biggs, whatever his name is. He just deadlifted 1,025 and I think 242. But people will be like, well, yeah, I just got to keep squat benching and deadlifting 5 days a week like them. And I'm like, yeah, you're gonna get hurt. Those two are just a different breed, and they can get away with it. How long they'll get away with it, I don't know. But I think the white guy is like 23, the one that just did the 1,025. Jamal's probably like my age. He's probably like 27, 28 at the most.
Yeah. So check in when they turn 30 and see where they're at.
I was gonna say,
exactly.
tell me when you're at your 40.
A lot of flash.
Yeah, if you watch the
and the amount of shit they're probably on is crazy.
Oh, they're all natty. Don't worry.
It's the natty shit. I'm natty. I'm weak.
Well, the whole
I ain't
thing
gonna
is
shy when I'm gonna tell people like I'm now on the shit. Look at this.
If you look at even the program they always use is one of the ones that is the Russian squat program. That's how a lot of guys supposedly getting because they're squatting 3-5 times a week or something to that effect.
Yeah, the 3-5 times a week, crazy shit.
You know who I'm talking? Yeah. And my whole thing is, it says right on it when you get the actual program, it says this is not for a natural athlete. This is so it does. That's what the copies I've gotten is that because that's the only way you can do anything like that. Or look at the Bulgarians when they used to bulk in their training. Right. They used to train 3 times a day. And the way they would do it, I know you guys are in, I just love my reading with this stuff, where they'd actually start when the first warm-up that was 85%, 95 and 105, and they'd shut it down, and then they'd do a train later in the day, same kind of percentages. They train 3 times.
30 minutes at a time, right? Three 30-minute sessions, right?
Exactly. Because it maximizes our testosterone boost, and it's something that they say you can handle. I don't know about you, man. I ain't
handling that shit.
I squat, I squat a lot. And I like to squat as much as I can, man. But I'd be so busted up, man. There's no way I could do that. Gear or no gear. I'm talking gear as far as like equipment.
Right.
Gotta be careful when I say gear.
Right.
Gear
You
you
need so
wear.
many things.
Well, you're talking about an old Soviet bloc country, so you're probably right in both.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just watched Icarus again like 2 nights ago.
What is that? What is?
Oh, it's a
doping.
Netflix documentary about a guy who he starts off that he wanted to see like basically how well could he dope. He was a bicyclist and a filmmaker. And so he wanted to contact the best specialists he could and get on as much gear as he could and see, like, as a, non-competitive, non-professional type athlete, how far could like drugs take him? And number one, he actually got hurt and he did worse on the drugs. But number two, he was like, I feel like an animal. I'm gonna be so much better this year in this race. All my outputs are up. And then he got into the actual race and just like completely broke down. So he couldn't even finish. But the specialist that he ended up meeting to prescribe and oversee his steroid program was the guy who was in charge of the, basically the national doping program for Russia. And it's right when the steroid scandal broke in like 2014. Right. And the filmmaker actually helps the Russian scientist escape Russia and come to the US and like basically turn in what the Russians were doing. And he explains how, like, number one, when they got caught in the 80s, they didn't actually change anything. They just got, more devious with how they got around all the testing. And so it's like, Russian and a lot of these old Soviet countries, they've just been blatantly, using the whole time. Like there was never a point at which they went off. So then when people talk about, like Smolov or something, and they, or even the old Bulgarian system, to go like, well, you had to be on steroids. Did you have to be on steroids? Was that like a determining factor? Who knows? Who cares? The point was their athletes were all on anything that they thought might improve them. And thus their training also reflected that they were trying to maximize what their available athletes could do. It's like Louis, like they had no interest in what could you do if you weren't trying as hard as you could to win. They didn't want to know what you could do with one hand behind your back. They wanted to know what could you do at full strength.
Right. You realize one of the things I grew up during that time, and I never did anything HRT until I was 59, right? And one of the things that they were really big into in those days was what they called adaptogens. And I don't know if you ever heard any of that kind of stuff. They use everything from Mumio to Fred Hatfield's a friend of mine. And we talked a lot about the different things that they would use when they cycled off of stuff to even maintain a lot of their strength when they came off it. So they learned it was a science. They were sports scientists to experiment, not just some guy down the end of the street telling you, hey, you take this, you do that. They had guys that actually were scientists. I had one of my 16-year-old athletes that came from Russia that was supposed to be on the acrobatic team for Russia in 1980. And he told me a lot of the secret things that they were doing that I think he alluded that he used different things like that, but they also included a lot of different adaptogens, Siberian ginseng, and Mumio, and different things that aided their body. But one of the things they talked about was, he talked to me about the differences in the movie Rocky. The Americans, were portrayed that, or Rocky had nothing to train with, and the Russians had all the fancy equipment. That's totally opposite. All the places he trained at, because he was on the team, the Soviet sports team, and they had nothing. They had cold rooms with bent bars and rusted, no calibrated plates there. They had nothing. So listen to that USBL, no calibrated plates. And so when they came to a contest, it was like lifting in heaven. And Americans always had all this fancy Denver, all that thing out they had in Colorado, and they lifted like shit. So, it all depends where, I guess what kind of atmosphere you grow up on, but that's my background a lot. I had a lot of access to that. So,
and actually, there was a book, The Sport of Steroids. It was about Pat Mendez, I think it was, from the U.S. that was doping, and he was Brazilian and went and trained with Fernando Reyes, that's over at Hybrid now. And it was like, oh yeah, they're all doping. They just don't drug test.
Right.
So it's like they go 4 years training for the Olympics, and then they clean out right before the Olympics, and they don't get caught.
Now, what do you guys say? Because I have people that I know that are around or train Olympic athletes here in the U.S. and they're like, well, see, like, reason why we lose is because the Asians and the Russians and all of them, they're just taking shit, and a lot of them are on the side of like, well, like, because they're using more of a conjugate based approach, they use more, they actually do some machine work and single joint work, whereas over here it's a lot of just the two main movements and variations of it. And they were like, well, it's not anything to do with the training, it's all about the roids. But I'm like, all right, if you know people on steroids, it's like, if you look at that little Luau guy that's for China, he's squatting like 800 at like 165. And then you have guys that weigh 302 something pounds over here that only squatting 5. That ain't all roids. That ain't all roids. Like, part of that got to be the training. Like, you can't be, the gap ain't that crazy. Like, I'm not on roids. I'm squatting close to them and they weigh 100 pounds of me. And I've not been lifting serious for more than 2 years. Like, what? I don't know about that. We got all the money and shit. We got all the money. Like, you can have reverse hybrids, but you can't do that because that's a Louis made piece, ain't it? You can't belt squat, but that's a Louis made piece. You can't inverse curl, like, I
think it has a lot to do with. I think it has a lot more to do with what sports are popular over here and how we.
Right. True.
Right.
Because kids are told lifting weights is terrible for you as a youth athlete. So these kids are afraid to touch any kind of weight until they're 13, 14, 15 years old. I actually had a dad contact me the other day about his daughter who was 15, and he was worried that it was too early to start her to lifting. I'm like, no, you should have started her lifting 3 years ago or more. But so you have that, and then you have countries like China where they're bringing kids in when they're 7, 8, 9 years old, or even younger, actually, starting them on their Olympic lifting national team, progression.
Right.
And so I think that has a lot more to do with it than the roids or the training, even.
I like to add a point to what you're adding to, too, because you have a great point there. One of my friends, the kid that I told you about that was from Russia, one of the part of the reason it really motivated him so well is, first, they have a way of selecting you out of the crowd. Like, he was selected to be on with that group because of his athleticism and so forth, right? The thing that they also did with him was, in Russia, they gave his parents a house. They gave him a car. He had a full salary. What they did was they made it so beneficial for him and his family. That kid was able to raise the status of his family from absolute poverty into being like, a first-class citizen. That motivated a lot, at least some of the athletes I know that happened with him.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the thing with
football and basketball.
Yeah.
You said what?
In America, the motivation is for sports like football and basketball is what's going to get you out of poverty.
That's where the big money is at. That's the thing too.
It's not track and field or
where you get scholarships too.
None of the Olympic stuff.
Sometimes.
Well, not Olympic weightlifting.
Lu Xiaozhen, the guy that you were talking about in weightlifting, he did an interview maybe a year or two ago, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I got into weightlifting because you get to eat meat in China if you're an athlete."
God damn! Wow. He's not even eating the sesame chicken. He didn't even get the sesame chicken on the regular. He had the Olympic lift first.
Right.
They making that motherfucker eat insects first. They said,
I want to know what's in the
insects. Great. God damn. Better fish yourself if you ain't on the Olympic lifting team.
I'll send you the YouTube. I mean,
you got to.
That was the translation, but
yeah, can you drop that in our chat? That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of like every big university here. Yeah, they pump tons of money into like the football program because that's the prestige program. Yep. And it distracts from the fact that like you got other programs that are going under, and you got, you know, all of your students at the university are poor, but there's so many aspects of the like college system that are unsavory, but we kind of look the other way because the football program does well. In Russia and China, with the economy, you know, doesn't allow that individual upward mobility in the same way. So how do you keep such giant populaces from, you know, putting the leaders' heads on spikes? You got to give them that national pride. So you pump tons of resources into making sure you get Olympic medals, and you treat it with a level of seriousness and a level of attention to detail that they don't use in the US, where it's, you know, more of a sort of private base.
Yeah, that's why I like when people were getting so mad about the athletes getting paid. And I said, if you look at though with the college system, once it happened where they were like, oh, you can come to the G League and we'll allow you to go back to school. And then if that don't work out, you can go back to G League and try to go back to the NBA. And then kids are starting to get paid from high school. All of a sudden, now it's like, oh, we can't hide behind the fact that we just are getting to get all this fucking money, and these kids are still fucking hungry. Like I know when people are like, well, they get a free education. I said, first of all, if you talk to anybody or know anybody that's played at a D1 level and they're like on a basketball team or football team, they may get a degree. They still haven't learned shit. Second, your scholarship, depending on the sport, you know, how high you are and how big you are, like they still may not have money for their family. They may be hungry. They still may not have all these clothes and all that shit. And then it's like, there's no guarantee that you're going to make it into your sport. And we know if you're not really getting educated while you're there, well, then you're kind of fucked. And then, you know, so many kids, it used to be, I think they only changed it like between the last 5 to 10 years where, oh, you get a major injury in a certain sport, they were allowed to cut your fucking scholarship.
Yep.
Like, but if you got kids where it's like, oh, I already made $200,000, I'm good. You know, what you gonna do now? You know,
I seen on some volleyball team the other day, they changed the head coach, and it was right after the deadline for the athletes to be able to transfer, and they cut all the girls' scholarships. And so they're just,
I saw that.
Was that black lady else with she cut the whole team?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Grambling State is what it was. But
that's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you look at it too, if you look at some of these coaches and what they're making right now, you know,
that it's low. It's $4 or $5 million.
You got guys making $8-9 million a year. That just shows that there's plenty of money to at least. I don't know if, you know, college kids need to be getting like $20,000-$30,000 a year extra over their scholarship, but they should be at least getting taken care of. You know,
yeah, like if you can work the booth and you can get paid, how the fuck is the person that's making the booth job available not getting fucking paid? Exactly. And we all know these kids are coming in with 42-inch verticals playing at Duke. It ain't all Coach K the reason why he's winning. It's fucking because these kids the next year can go into the NBA. Like,
well, it's kind of like the whole St. Peter's thing. You know, everybody's up in arms because like 8 of their guys are going to transfer out through the transfer portal, but their fucking coach just used their, you know, magical run to get a hell of a high-paying job in a Power 5 basketball conference. What difference is it between the kids and the coach? If the coach can use a magical run like that, the kids sure as hell should be able to at least too.
Yep.
Get it while
bad when the kids do. Yeah, right.
And the sad thing is so the last school I was at was a Division III school, and we had one. We actually just had another kid that's about to transfer too, but we've had 3 completely stark different kids transfer up to Division I. So we had a girl that played soccer, and she came in off an ACL injury her senior year. She rehabbed with me for an entire year. Sophomore year of college, she was an All-American in D3, transferred to the University of Washington, and the coach fucking threw an absolute temper tantrum when she told her that she was getting transferred to the University of Washington.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the Power 5 conference that you're transferring up to, and at the time, UW was in the top 25. She transferred out there and became a starter immediately. I mean, how can you blame a kid from transferring from Division 3 to Division 1 like that?
The coach should be using that as his pitch to the kid to replace them.
Exactly.
Yes, exactly.
Come here, I'll kick you up to the next level. I'm a kingmaker.
That's what Calipari does. He's like, yeah, I build kids so that I don't know how much building he's doing, but they all get top 10. And look how much money you get when you get top 10 versus bottom 30 to 40. Hey, come here. I'll help you out.
Exactly.
And they can't fire him, and he doesn't need to win championships.
Yeah.
It works for everyone.
Mm-hmm. Oh. Anybody else got anything else? Any other topics before we log off?
We didn't even talk about the topic we want to talk about. Not that I'm saying go back to that. This has been a great conversation.
On it.
I was gonna say I got talked about for about 2 minutes, and then we jumped to something else.
It's been all over the place. I love it.
Well, Rachel, talk about with yourself and your clients. Like, what do you guys do? Do you guys stick to strictly the traditional speed squats? Do you guys do more heavy sets of 3, 4s, and 5s, or do you do a little bit of both? How does that work?
So when I do front squats for speed work to build the front because I'm a beltless crazy raw lifter. So whatever, it is what it is. But we went to West Side. Lou had us. He had me under. I think it was a green band. He had me under at 95 pounds in the bar, and I felt like I was dying. And he had me do 5x5, and I thought I was gonna die. And then he kept yelling at me. He kept yelling at me for not arching. And I was like, I can't arch under this. And then he's like, wait a minute, it's too much band tension. And I was like, yeah, no shit. I felt like I was going to die. But he told us that he tries to run everybody like 80%, but everybody's on drugs and in gear so they can recover. I'm not doing any of that shit. So for us, we hit, I kind of do waves now. It was my training partner, Mike, and I kind of came up with this idea. It was more for recovery. So I don't pull traditional straight bar deadlifts either for speed because they destroy my back. It takes forever to recover. So I'll do, my program is front squats to a 11.5-inch box. I'll do a 3-week wave, 1 week no bands, 1 week 40 pounds of bands, 1 week 80 pounds of bands. Then obviously the bar weight will vary depending on what that is. And I try to just beat 5 pounds every week. I did a 5x5 for a whole year from West Side up until about 2 or 3 weeks ago. I stopped doing a 5x5, went back to a 12x2 because I was just getting tired. I needed a change. And then on our deadlifts, we'll do, I do trap bar pulls. So I'll do on the weeks that I have no bands, I'll do a 3-inch deficit. On the weeks that I have, weeks that I have 1 band, I'll do a 2-inch deficit. And the weeks that I have 2 bands, I'll do a 1-inch deficit. So it's a 3-2-1. So it just.
Do you conventional pull or sumo?
I'm a conventional in meets.
Okay, that makes sense. So the trap bar
pounds less than my conventional. Huh?
I said that makes sense because then your trap bar isn't like too far away from your conventional. At least your legs are the same, but your hands just change a little bit.
Yeah, I just do it more. For me, it really taught me to use my hamstrings to initiate the pull. That's what the trap bar on a deficit taught me.
Rach, have you ever tried to use the Mars bar for your front squat yet?
Funny you asked that question. I used the Mars bar. I went to Anthony Oliveira's gym last weekend, I think it was, up in New Hampshire, and I used the Mars bar to squat to a box. And that bar is weird in a good way. I couldn't arch under it. So you have to kind of do like low bar, almost like USAPL style. It's very, very strange. I hit 295 to a 12-inch box that day, and my hips are still sore, and it's been a week. So it hit something.
I've never felt a bar. I've been a big advocate of it. As a matter of fact, when I learned about it, I actually ran out to the Arnold and bought the one that was there, brought the prototype, because it really, for me, doing front squats with it, because I really believe that I used to do a lot of front squats when I was younger. I really used to work up to a lot, and I stopped doing that. I think a lot of my whole crew stopped, and I found out my deadlifts really came back when I started doing that. That and the real Jesse Hogan safety squat bar. That both helped. But I was just curious if you did that too. You also
I've
made a point that
been using the Duffalo bar primarily, but we're actually at the gym I train at now, where the owner is turning 60. So I can't send him this podcast till after his birthday, but we're surprising him with a Mars bar for his 60th birthday. So I've collected in 2 days, collected $1,000 from everybody at the gym, and we're gonna order a bar and give it to him.
Listen, if you want to call me later on, because I distribute them. I'll give you a better
Oh, there
price.
you go.
Oh,
Yeah, I was
sweet.
about to say
All
that.
right.
Yeah.
Good. I'll call you later on. Yeah. When I have,
seriously.
I'm dead serious. I'm collecting all of this week. We're going to get actually 2 bars, I think, because one of his favorite.
I can get you a very good deal.
Okay.
I was one of the first people. I was like one of the East Coast people that I sold 10 at a clip to certain schools. Believe me, they're great.
Yeah.
I wasn't bringing it up to like do a business type thing. I just really, everybody in my gym, I love it. I love to do overloads with it. I just think it's a great bar.
Yeah, we were looking for another variation because the SSB is always what everybody uses, or the giant Racquetball.
Oh no!
But it'll be nice to have something different.
SSBs that are out there now are garbage compared to the original ones. They are absolute garbage.
We're also. What do you guys think about the Spider Bar from Elite? The cambered bar /
It looks dope. I've never had it.
I got to take off, guys. I got cranky babies.
Hey, listen.
Go
take care of your baby. Have a happy Easter. We don't talk to you. Happy holidays.
I love the Spider Bar. All my clients absolutely fucking hate it. So
that's good.
That's a good sign.
Weird. I'm weird, and I like all the weird shit. They all hate it. So
does it feel like the cambered bar when you're in the hole? If you're not tight enough, you get rocked. Like
it's even worse.
That's good.
Because you really can't hold the hands can't stop the swinging because it's here now, right?
Well, so Khalil, you cheat on the fucking cambered bar anyways. So
people always tell me that.
Oh my God, we're talking.
Well, we got the little squat rack, so like, what am I supposed to do? I gotta hold it here. It's an excuse, yes.
I haven't used the spider bar, but I have the old like SS yoke bar that has the same kind of handles.
Yep.
And I'll say like that SSB bar with that old yoke style like that compared to the new ones, like the new ones are so much easier than the one with the long handles like that. That one with the long handles will, if you're not right, it's going to show you what you're here at Egg Cone spread the taint. It's going to show you what yours looks like if you don't, if you're not right on that handle like that.
You ain't kidding, right? Listen. There's a bar that's out there actually by Rachel. The gentleman sells a bar. It's called the Hook Bar, right? His name is Josh Rondon. I can never say he's a friend of mine. And what it is, the same basic bar. It has hooks all on the inside that allow you to change like all different band tensions, everything else. It is off the hook. It's only coming out right now. It's really cool.
He's out in Massachusetts?
Yes.
Is he?
Yes.
Well, when I call you about the
he's out of Holyoke. You ever hear of Holyoke?
Yeah, that's like 90 minutes from here.
That's where he's out of. I'll if you could contact me, I'll give you my number if you can write it down. And anybody else, you got a pen there? I don't know. 732.
Hold on, I want a fucking Mars bar too. So
listen. Because I'm telling you, because if you know, this is you guys are in the sport. Just pass the word. I'm the one that got to Louis the first time. Louis loved it. I brought the Zach out to see Louis, and Louis loved it. So it's 732-598-9369.
Are you gonna edit this out, Khalil, so he doesn't get phone calls from everybody in the universe?
No, let him call me. I don't care.
Yeah, hey, you know how
don't edit it out. I left my phone somewhere. I need that number.
Listen, man. I do that.
If it gets said.
I'm a power lifter, man. I'll tell you something. I'm never gonna be rich because I give with different people like lifters. I like seeing that stuff in your gym because my gym is. I'll tell you something. I don't have any money in the bank, but I got one badass gym. You guys are always invited to come out and visit, man. Mm-hmm. I'm in Central Jersey, man. I also got what's her name, Laura Phelps, coming out in June, and I'm gonna run a bench deadlift contest with this 365 strong in a couple. I think during July, we'll go out there and run a bench deadlift, and we're gonna have some barbecue afterwards.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm old school.
You got that date officially for that? That's June 11th. You were saying, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Being in Central Jersey, can you help out Deppin so I don't have to fucking
Mark
post?
Deppin is a man, baby. Him and I are good friends.
I swear to God, he sends me shit to post
every day. Every day.
Every day I get a story from him for his job.
For his job?
Yeah.
Where he's posting it for an assistant.
That gym, for assistant, let me tell you something. That gym has like 10 models in it. That gym is like, it's heaven. You know, if Louis could go somewhere, that'd be a hell of a place to go. He loved Louis, and that's like there was like another gym around that I worked down there called with John McKenna. You guys, I don't know if you ever heard of him. He was a legend. It was Notre Dame, which is in Lawrenceville. I'm by Newark Airport. I'm right like next door, like 5 minutes from Newark Airport and 20 minutes out of New York City. You guys are ever visiting? Come on up.
I'm thinking about going then. So
all the West Siders come up to my place. Louis used to send them to my place all the time whenever they came out. You know. But listen,
if you guys are thinking about it, I'm thinking about going around that time because I got to go up to New York anyway. So
in June,
that'd be in June. So that would be dope. I'd like to come. Is it only women though for that meet?
No, man. We want to have some fun.
Oh yeah. All right. If I ain't got a squad, that's good. If I ain't got a squad,
I'm insulted now.
No, I'm a very big proponent of something called. I have a program called Women in Power, where I work with a lot of abused and women that are like, in relationships that kind of get beat up a lot, and I find powerlifting builds your spirit back, and I really enjoy what I do with women.
It does. To be fair, I do prefer competing with men in the flights with me because it's a lot more competitive.
Well, let me tell you something. I got a young lady.
I don't get your PR.
Yeah, it's fun.
That's what we do, man. We talk a lot of crap at the gym too. It is West Side. I have a girl.
They're gonna be talking shit to me with my weak ass bench.
Your weak ass bench. I used to bench a lot, and I blew both shoulders out and my tricep off the bone. I could barely bench 250 now. You know, I was up
saying barely 250, bro. I'm barely benching like 3.
Well, you don't want to compete with my training partner. Then I've seen him with a guy we know. Look at him right in front of his son and say, "Are you going to let that woman out deadlift you in front of your son right before his attempt?" Yeah.
Oh my God!
You want to go?
I'll be fine on the deadlift. It's the bench where she's gonna be weak.
Wait, did he get the deadlift?
Yeah, he wasn't going to go again, but after he said that to him, he went out there and like upped his attempt and got it.
That's your son? You said your son?
Oh my God!
Is that your son, my friend? You said you were talking about your son pulled the deadlift?
Oh no, my training partner. He had there was a guy that we were lifting with at a meet, and he wasn't going to take his last attempt, and one of the women in the flight had pulled more than him, and he looked at him in front of his son and said, "Are you going to let that woman out there lift you in front of your son? You better go back out there."
That's awesome.
After seeing Suzanne Salazar deadlift 500 pounds at 123 pounds of body weight.
God damn.
Yeah.
I'm about to go on a cycle before I come up there now. Natty.
Yeah, there were some fucking numbers put up today at the Pro-Am. Fucking
the women's one, right?
Salazar put up 500 at 123. Vanessa Torres pulled a shitload.
Oh, Vanessa's a beast.
Leah Reichman hit 930 on her squat, but then bombed out on bench.
She did?
Yeah.
930 on the squat.
Yeah.
What body weight?
I'm not sure. She's super heavyweight, so it had to be over 242. I know a couple years ago when I was out there with a couple of my lifters, she was like 285. So
yeah, I think she's around like the 280, 290 mark.
Yeah.
She's too.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck. That's like 700 raw, so fuck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Insane.
That's why I wish I had training partners, man. I got no training. I got no external motivation.
Well, you're gonna have it now. We're gonna talk to you every week, right? Hey, we can't let him off the hook, man. He's gonna tell us when he's gonna deadlift next week.
Rachel.
Yeah.
What gym do you train at out in Boston?
MetFit out in Natick. It's a suburb of Boston, so maybe 30 minutes outside the city.
Okay, I'm gonna be out there for USS Nationals at the end of June.
Oh, you gotta come train there. It's the best gym. There's also one. Where is Nationals? Where?
Manchester,
New Hampshire.
Yep.
So that might be like an hour. There's another gym in the north of Boston that's called Total Performance Sports. That's really good too.
Oh, that's my friend's place. Is that Russ's place?
Yeah, Murph's actually.
Yeah.
I was there today. I trained there today.
The guy who has a big mustache.
Yeah, that's Murph. I'll put it in the chat, both locations. But yeah, if you want to come to MetFit, we'll totally host you. That'd be awesome.
All right.
Come hang out with us.
Anybody got anything else?
I'm pretty much done. I just wanted to find Josh's last name. It sounds like a gun, like Rondinone or something like that. I'll find it later on. I'll tell you next week.
Is that your cell phone that you gave me?
Yes, I only have one. Do
you have a flip phone or do you text?
I use
a flip phone.
I think she just called you old.
Call them out.
I got the damn cricket joint.
I'll text you my number.
It's one of those 13s because I'm so bad with phones, man.
I'll text you later. I'll let you know who I am.
Man, no, I'm happy about that.
I'm just giving you shit.
Well, I'll find the number, man. Hey, you guys, I'm telling you, I have a blast with you guys. Let's keep coming up with some of this great stuff because we're going to get people to follow us, and I'm going to tell everybody I know about getting on here and giving some questions and stuff like that. Like maybe even like.
Shit, you know what? Oh, you know what I'll do next? I think for this next one, I'll start putting on my story like, hey, do you have questions for? Try to lock everybody in that's going to be speaking, so then people can get. Because when I've done it for myself, I get a few, but you guys are so respected with who you train and how you lifted. So people want to really hear from you guys. So I'll start like, I'll put a picture of you guys up and be like, oh, what would you want to ask? Blah, blah, blah in this next pod. That'll be real good because it'll involve more engagement, for me, because the biggest thing is I want to keep like that post that I made, I think for the last podcast, that one was the quickest with the amount of views it was getting because all you guys were sharing. So like the more it's engaged, even before it's even done, it's going to make it better. So I'm going to try to do a better job of doing that.
I put the links to the Apple podcast in my story. And then I do one link a story. And then I put the link to the Android store in my story. Yeah. That's what I did. And people were watching it and giving me great.
Listen, let's get our Instagrams up there so we could also build it up at the same time, get some people out there too. And so we can answer questions with that.
Yep.
Conjugate Church. I love it.
Hey, I'm gonna throw a great tool out for you guys. My friend Kara Weston was one of Laura. She runs all the meets for Laura Phelps, and she was one of Louis' right hand people. She was a 148. She squatted 5, made like 3 something in a bench, and I think like 4 something in a deadlift. She wrote a program that's on the internet called conjugatetracker.com. What it does is conjugate and tracker tracker.com. You go to it, right? It allows you to she has all, and it costs nothing. It has all the different West Side accessories. It shows you different waves. It's one of the most comprehensive things built for West Side I see out there, and it costs nothing. Conjugatetracker.com.
That's incredible.
Tracker, you said, right?
Yeah, tracker. It might be org, but I'm pretty sure it's com.
Okay.
I go on it all the time, and what's so amazing is you can check your loads if you're into all kinds of stuff like that. And it is just amazing how she was able. She actually does what she does now. She's one of the smarter West Side people that she's into robotics, and so she She did originally that kind of stuff, and now she is into robotics. But that program she did is really good. I'm starting just to use it again.
I'm gonna sign up.
Nice little in. So, hey, when's the next time? Probably next Saturday or Sunday, or
I'm gonna try to do it once a month. So probably around like the first week of May, because what is it? It's like mid-April right now. So not 2 weeks from now, probably 3 weeks from now.
Right.
Yeah, because I got to get back on doing some of the solo one-on-one. I just forget to DM people. That's the problem.
Or forget to hit record.
Yes, or hit record. So one man operation. So I have my girl. She's doing that conjugate page that you guys are probably all getting followed by. That's her running all that, because I'm trying to make it separate because it's becoming too much of a headache trying to put it all on my page and all that. So it makes it a little bit easier where all the info, past, present, and future will all be there. So I probably need to do that for the podcast, honestly, but I don't know.
One thing at a time. One thing at a time.
Yeah, one thing at a time.
all right,
all right, y'all. I'm a head out as long as you guys are good.
This was fun. Thank you.
And I thank all of you and have a great day, guys. We'll talk in a couple of weeks. And don't feel funny. You got my number on there. Give me a shout for anything. All right.
I'm gonna text you in a minute.
That's fine. Take care, guys.
All right, you guys.
All right, you guys.
Later.
Cheers.
All right, peace.